So we could. I know that sometimes we finish a little sooner or later, depending. But if you guys can bring some notes, so we could can keep a track where we're going. So we just in case if I'm not here in 1 week, at least we know where we left off. So at least have an idea, cause I've been keeping track for a while on my little notes. So at least have an idea where we at. So when I ask you guys have an idea where we left. Um, I think that will help us a lot with how. I think it's gonna be almost a year that we've been doing this, huh? So I mean, time goes fast. I never thought I would have done this for almost a year. So and we don't know who may come or who may go, but at least we're prepared. So at least and then it helps me. So at least I know that I'm not repeating myself. So at least the topics that we talked about. So and then if you guys have any questions or something, we can look back into it. So for example, like today, I put in the date, what day is today, and I'm like, okay, on this day we talk about this and stuff, so I can look back, so I don't get ahead of myself. So um, today we're gonna talk about Psalms 91. So Psalms 91, it's one that we've been talking about a lot here at church, right? We've been setting like on Mondays we talk about it. So we're gonna maybe next week we may continue talking about it. So today at least we're gonna, like they say, we're gonna touch a basis on. So I know we see it in Spanish, but we're gonna read it today in English, all of it. It's not that long, so at least we have an idea of what we're gonna be talking a little bit about today. So yes, all have Psalms 91, right? Okay. And he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. And I will say unto the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God. In him will I trust. Surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shall thy trust. His trust be thy shield and buckler, and thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor by the arrows that flieth by day, nor the pestilence that waketh in the darkness, nor the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold, see the reward of the wicked, because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy inhabitants. There shall no evil befall thee, not any plague come thy dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in thy ways. Thou shalt bear thee in thy hands, lest thou by foot against the stone. Thou shalt tread upon the lions and the young lion, and the dragon shall trample under thy feet. Because he has set his love upon me, therefore would I deliver him. Would I set him high, because he had known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. And I will be with him in the trouble, and I will deliver him and honor him. With long life would I satisfy him and shield him with my salvation. Amen. So it's a psalm that we've been reading here at church for a little while, and it's a psalm that it's a very popular psalm. Besides the one that Psalms 21. So how many of you guys at least have heard about it? Besides here, at least once, right? Have an idea. So David, you know, we can say that when he was writing the psalms, he was going through a lot of things, you can say, that were happening around him. We all know the story of David, right? King David, right? So King David went through a lot of struggles in his life, and especially when he was young, and this was right before he was going to become king. He was he had a father-in-law who wanted to kill him. If you guys know the story, you know. So I'm just gonna brief a little bit. So his father-in-law was very jealous of him because he found out that God was gonna replace him with David. So he started chasing after him. So David started to hide in many places. Um, he used to move from town to town. There was a lot of spies, which is King Saul had a lot of spies. They were looking for him. So he was always in constant danger. And a lot of the Psalms that we read in the Bible are based upon that danger that he felt. So he had a lot of things going on. But during that situation, God was trying to deliver him because he had a purpose for him. But yet, we are humans, so we feel afraid, and that could overcome our intuitions in many ways. And that's what Psalms 91 is really about. Most popular is about fear. It's about having fear and how to overcome fear in the presence of God. And it talks about things that you can say, in those days, troubled him, troubled David, or trouble even the people upon those days. It talks about pestilence and it talks about plagues. You guys all know what pestilence are, right? And plagues. So, the COVID, all that stuff, that's a pestilence. That's a plague that was, in a way, that was something that was infects people, and especially back then, there was a lot of plagues back then. There was a lot of pestilence. So people were very afraid of that. And it talks about arrows, so war, people wanted to kill you, Now we have weapons of mass destruction, like, big weapons, nuclear weapons. But at the same time, we have what? There's guns, there's wars and stuff. So what I like about the Psalms, that it starts to compare to how things were back then, but now how things are. But going back to the fear, it's speaking about the fear that we all have and how we can overcome it. So let's focus on verse 4. So it says, "He shall cover thee with thy feather, and unto his wing, and shall thou trust his truth shall be shield and buckler." So who shall cover you with the wings and his feathers? What is it talking about? What is it saying right there? He shall cover thy with feathers and under his wings. Who's going to cover us under his feathers and wings? God, right? So God will. All of you guys have seen the chickens, right? When they're born, they're small, right? And who covers them? The hen, right? Their mother. And how does the mother cover them? They go under their wing, And how do dogs cover their young? They when they sleep, the dogs, they lay down and they try to cover them with their body, right? But right here it's talking about feathers, because he's trying to cover, just like a chicken, especially when they have a lot of little chicks, and you try to grab them, they all go under the mother hens because they feel safe under there. But that's just a metaphor how we can feel safe under God. He will cover under us. But it says right here, his truth shall be thy shield. But to trust God to cover for us, we gotta what? We gotta know his truth. Who is God, right? When people don't know anything and they don't have God, who do you think they trust? People outside of the church. Who do you think people trust? Scientists. Perfect. Scientists, government, people that are more educated than you are, doctors, teachers, lawyers, police people. And there's people out there that don't trust nobody. And they go on in life doing a lot of mistakes. And you know where they end up? A lot of them in jail. Because they don't trust nobody. And then at the end, they do something. And then they end up in jail. And now that's their trust now. Now they have to trust on another inmate to take care of them. Because that's how the jails are run. So as human beings, we have to trust somebody. It's a thing that it's not only wired in us, but it's something in this world we have to do. You know, just like the people that are married, they got to trust on their partner. Just like your children, you got to trust on who? On your parents. You got to trust that your parents know more than you, right? Especially when you're growing up. You have to trust that your mom knows more and your dad knows more. And if you don't got them, maybe you got brothers. Maybe you got older brothers. Now you got to trust who? Your older brother, that he knows more than you. And there's people that don't even have that, and that's scary because then they go on in life. They're very untrustworthy, and they don't have nobody to trust, so they're out there trying to be their own trust, and sadly enough, that doesn't really go a long way. Because in this world, everything is based on trust. You know, for example, like when you work, your boss has to have trust that you're gonna show up to work. So if not, he's not gonna pay you. And if you're in school, if you don't show up to school, what happens? Your parents get a call from the teacher, from the principal, saying that why is your kid not going to school? There's no trust. And if you don't go to school, especially now, they go to jail. Yeah, they go to jail. So you have to go to school. There's no other way. So this society, there has to be trust. So even though you know, a lot of us, we have different levels and stuff, but either way, in this society, we all gotta be trusting something, you know. Now that doesn't mean that we give full trust to everything. Like I don't trust 100%, you know, my government or the police, that they're always gonna protect me. For example, you know, if I'm walking around here in King City in the night, you know, at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. And then if somebody asks me, hey, you're crazy. Why are you walking around the night at 2 or 3 in the morning in King City? Oh, because I have trust that the cops are going to protect me. Really? You're going to put all your trust in the cops that they're going to protect you for walking 2 or 3 in the morning. Nobody says that. Why? Because you can't put complete trust on them. Because you can't trust them 100% that they're going to protect you. You know, 100%. So I'm just giving you guys this example that are things that we do in life. So we can now, you know, talk a little bit more on the most important thing, which is God. But going back to trusting, right? So we gotta have trust in God that He's gonna shield us, right? And that's gonna be our shield, because now that we put a trust in Him, we can be under Him, under His wings. And then it says on verse 5, "Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor the arrows that fly by day." What terrors are there at night? What is that? What does that have to do with anything? Terror. What terrors are there at night? You know, what is that speaking about? You know, how many things happen in the night in our lives? You know, like I was saying, if I'm walking in the night in King City at 3 in the morning, of course I should be. You know, there are things that could happen if you're walking by yourself at 3 in the morning. But let's say you're not walking. Let's say you're at your house. What if somebody tries to rob you in the night? What control do you have that? So you have trust that the doors are going to hold on, right? But if the doors don't hold on, then, you know, then you're like, oh, what's going to happen? So there are things that are out of our control. But at night, it's something because we're more vulnerable. Because we all, you know, most of the time we're all asleep at night, right? Most of us all sleep at night. So that's when we're more vulnerable, because we're not awake. We're sleeping, and those 8 hours or 7 hours, depending on how much you guys sleep, you guys are vulnerable, because somebody can come in and do anything because you guys are not awake. So anything that happens at night, there's a vulnerability. But who are you trusting? And then it says that the arrows that fly by day, you know, the dangers. That's another good one. Back then, you know, arrows, that's what people used to shoot people. You know, they used to use arrows. They were weapons of war. But now that we live in the modern society, what arrows can we put as an example? Shootings, you know. I remember when I was 15, 14, you know, 15, 16 years old, here in King City, there was a lot of violence. There was a lot of gangs. A lot of you guys were not even born yet, so a lot of you guys don't even know what's that about. But I remember when I was young, there was to be a lot of shootings back then, especially, and then it happened in the day or night. One time we were eating at my house with my mom and dad, and next thing you know, this car started shooting in the middle of the day. This guy, thank God, none of the bullets hit our house, but it was right in front of our street. So what if one of those bullets would have hit us? You see, you can say those are modern arrows that are being shot at, or when you drive, anything. So there's dangers all the time. But who are you putting your trust in? And then let's continue where it says, in verse 6, nor the pestilence that walked in the walked in the dark, and in the darkness, nor the destruction that walked at noonday. We're talking about all the dangers that happen during the night and the day. 1,000 fall on the side, at thy side, and 10,000 at the right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. What is that talking about? We haven't experienced here in the U.S. We haven't experienced like a war, something very dramatic, but I don't know what the future holds. Maybe later, we don't know how things are going. But there's going to be a time where a lot of people are going to be dying next to you. A lot. It could be a war or anything. Right now we live in a lot of peace, but a lot of things happen. But if that happens, you're going to look for one side, you're going to see a lot of destruction on the other side. But who are you going to put your trust in when that happens? When something serious like that happens? It says right there that that even though they come on your right side or on your left side, but it should not come to you. Only with thine eyes shall behold and see the reward of the wicked. Because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy inhabitants. But none of that should persuade us, because why? Because it says that God is going to be our what? Our refuge, no matter what happens. And then it says, there shall no evil, because the Lord has made you a refuge, even the Most High inhabitants. There shall no evil befall, neither shall any plague come thy night by dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over thee, and keep thee in thy ways. So God is going to send who? Even angels to protect us, right? Speaking of that, let's go right there to right here. Let's go to Psalms 34, so we don't go too far away. And verse 7. You guys have it? So, Psalms 34, verse 7. The angel of the Lord encampment round about them that feared him and delivered them. The angel of the Lord encampment round about them that feared him and deliver them. So who? The angel of the Lord is going to be what? Around us, right? That feared him. He's going to protect us. Let's go now to, let's jump right there to Hebrew chapter 1. Right now we're going to go back to Psalms, but let's just jump to Hebrew chapter 1. It's going to be verse 14. You guys have it? It says, are they not all ministering spirits? In some Bibles it says angels. Send forth to minister, for them shall be heirs of salvation. Are they not all ministers of spirits sent forth to minister for them who shall be heirs of salvation? It's talking about angels. How they should be what? They're ministers. They're sent by God to help us, to protect us. That's why the Psalms in 91 it says, right, that the angel, right? That's why God has his when before God was crucified, or before Jesus was crucified, he was praying in the Mount Olives. You guys heard, right, the story? And then he said that he was praying so much that blood started coming out from his forehead, like his sweat was blood, because he had so much pressure in the world for what he was about to do, and he had fear because it said that he didn't want this cup. He wanted this cup to pass him, you know. He knew the burden that was going to come, but yet he said it was not my will, but whose? But let it be his will. So during that time, it says that what? That an angel came to comfort him, because he looked around and who was sleeping during that time? The disciples. They were all sleeping. So, but before that happened, if you remember the story, was that he went. The first time he went, he found them asleep, and he was like, you can say he was kind of saddened because he needed his disciples to be comforting him, because he was going through this tribulation. It was really hard. And then he said, "Oh, wake him up, so the evil shall not come die when I sleep when they are sleeping." So he goes back. Jesus goes back. He prays, and then he finds them again the second time. But so if we put ourselves in that situation, he felt completely alone in that moment. He had nobody. So what happened? An angel was sent to comfort him, because he felt like nobody else was there. But we know that there's another world that we don't see, that we forget sometimes, that there's a spiritual world that is always moving, you know. And do you guys know who Elijah is, right? Elijah. Yeah. Well, Elijah, he had a servant, and his servant was very scared because they were going to be attacked. And Elijah prayed that his eyes see the armies that were protecting them, because he couldn't believe. He's like, what are we going to do? We're going to be annihilated. So Elijah prayed so his spiritual eyes will be open, so he can see the armies that God had protecting them. So even though right now, because we have our eyes are of flesh and we can't really see, but there's always a war going on, spiritual war. There's always a war going on for our souls, especially when we pray. When we pray, there's a lot of things going on that we don't, sometimes we can't see, but we can feel it. At least I could sometimes. I don't know about you guys, but when we pray with intent for something, we feel something. And that's that's part of the confirmation. You can say that there's something going on spiritually that we can't see, but something is going on. So God has these ministers, these angels, to protect us during a lot of troubles and fears. And let's continue reading. And for he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in thy ways, and they shall bear thee up in their hands, unless thou dash thy foot against a stone. Thou shalt tread upon the lion, and under the young lion, and the dragon shall tremble under the feet. Because he had set his love upon me, and therefore would I deliver him, and I will send him high, because he had known my name. So it says that God is going to give us what? The power to overcome what? A lions and their young, and even the dragon shall tremble under our feet, because he has what? Because God loves us. But for God to love us, we got to what? Put his trust in him first. So after we put our trust, like we were reading, and we have God's love, anything else is going to tremble upon our feet. And even the dragon. And because he has set his love upon me, therefore will I deliver him, and I will send him high, because he has known my name. We all know God's name now, right? So, in his name, there's salvation. So that's why now with that revelation, we have more privilege than any time before. And it says, and he shall call upon me, and I will answer him, and I will be with him in troubles, and I will deliver him and honor him. So after God delivered us, and he loves us, what's gonna happen? He's gonna honor us, and we can honor God in return too, for what He has given us salvation through what? Through the fear of this world, and that's what the psalm is talking about. The fears that happen around us in this world should not overcome the love that God has for us. But for us to have God's love, we gotta what? Trust in Him. With the long, it says right here now, with long life would I satisfy him, and he and shew him, and him will be my salvation. By trusting God and giving us love, what's gonna happen? We're gonna have salvation, and that's what the whole world wants. It's salvation. Even though people that don't believe in God or not Christians, they want salvation from everything that happens around them. You know, I've talked to a lot of people that don't go to church, and most of the time, even though they're not Christians or they don't believe in God, they want to be saved from working too much, from having more money, from a different style of life, from the government, from everything. They want to have some sort of salvation. But, because they don't know God, they put their salvation in what? In government and their families and their loved ones. But the sad thing is that even though how much you love them, they tend to fail because we're humans, There's going to be moments where they're going to fail you, I mean, we're all young here. We all have mothers, right? Have they failed you in your life? Maybe a lot of you guys are too young, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be a time where they're going to fail you. And it's not because they want to or they don't love you. It's because they're humans. We're all humans. It's part of the life. Now, how are you going to react to that failure? Are you going to judge them? Are you going to, hate them? That's another thing too. Because when we're mature and we reach an age where we can think more, we're going to see that, hey, yeah, they fail because they're human just as like I am human. I fail too as a son, you can say, or as a daughter. How many times have you guys failed your mother? Many times. And it's part of life. But that's the thing, that's a human thing. But once we're with God, He's never gonna fail us. He's always gonna love us as long as we put His trust in Him. So that's the whole thing when King David was talking about of everything going on. God will be our protector and our rescuer, that He will not, that whatever fear that we have, it will not overcome our desire for God, because we all have to experience fear. What are you afraid of? If I ask you, some people are afraid of the dark. Some people are afraid of spiders, right? Small little things. When we're growing up, at least when we're kids, we one of the first things we start learning, it's love and fear, stuff like that. And and it first starts like, oh, somebody's scared of a spider, somebody's scared of this, which is normal fear. Some people are scared of the dark, but then as you become older, the fears are become a different thing. Now are you scared of being alone? Are you scared of abandonment? Are you scared of what people make fun of you? Some people are so scared of what people make fun of you that they don't say anything. They're always quiet. And when things happen, they don't want to say anything because they don't want to be fun of. They don't want people to laugh at them. So they always stay quiet their entire lives. And at the end, somehow or another, things don't get resolved because they don't speak about it. They don't say anything. And they think that by being quiet, things are going to work out. And sometimes it doesn't. Because sometimes you got to speak out when something is wrong, right? But being quiet all the time, that doesn't always work, because trust me, I've done it too. and when I was young, things didn't really work out. And then people ask you, why didn't you say anything? Oh, because you were what? Scared? There was fear. I mean, how many of you guys are scared to go in front of the class? Oh yeah, you see? It's an interesting thing, but I read when I was taking public speaking, I read that one of the number one fears people have, it's public speaking, being in front of the class or being in front of a public setting. That could be, singing, performing, acting, anything. Honestly, a lot of people are scared of that. A lot of people have a lot of fear. And I remember when we were taking that class, the teacher made us all go in front, all of us, at least once. So he's all like, okay, this is a public speaking class. We're all going to go in front and say your name, where you're from, and what you're trying to study. Start with you. And now with you. And now with you. And I remember that the person over here, they're already like scared. They're already like, and you can tell there's people there that were like, well, my name is, John, and this is what I'm studying, and this is what I'm doing. Okay, thank you, bye. But then there was a girl who's like, oh my God, I'm so shy. Oh, don't look at me. Where you guys, and they were doing that. And I'm all like, why? Because, they were scared. And they were going like this. And that made it even worse because now you're doing this and people are looking at you doing funny things. Or especially girls, they'll go in front and they don't want people to look at them. So they're looking at the sky. I don't know what they're looking at in the floor, And they cover their mouths, That's another one. That's a very woman thing. They cover their mouths when they laugh or when they speak. They always go, because that's a woman. That's some sort of fear. That's some sort of insecurity or whatever. But that's, And for the guys, it's the same thing. They don't want to do eye contact. They don't want people to look at them, so they look the other way or they look at down. Yeah, especially down. They go like this. And it's funny because in that class, it was maybe like 40 of us, and you can tell from those 40 people how many people were very, very embarrassed or very scared or had a lot of fear, and you can see how much people they were kind of like whatever. They were like, oh well, but it was a good experiment. But that's something that we all can relate to, something like that, right? We don't want to be in front of the class. I remember that when I was in 5th grade, the teacher used to make us do a little, this little activity where we go in the front and show them like this project. And I think it was like a project how we did it. We used to get a couple of crafts and stuff, and some people can draw something, some people can write something, like something that will make you show in front of the class or something like that. Some people can dance. I guess some guy was trying to dance. And I remember that the only thing I remember to do was draw. So I drew something and, but man, was that embarrassing. That was very embarrassing because, and you're 5th graders, all the kids laugh. But I remember that there was this kid who was good at dancing. And he went in front of the class and he was doing the dancing, like whatever. Everybody was like, wow. And there was no embarrassment. And he was so good at it that I remember we had a whole assembly. Remember in school we had the huge assembly with all the kids? So when that happened, we all go in the front. Well, all the teachers and all the classes from 1 to 5th grade, they're on assembly, and the kids went, and that kid went, and he was dancing up there. I'm like, man, that was even more embarrassing. Man, like 200 kids, 300 kids, and he was doing that in front of everybody. I was like, man. I'm like, nah, I'm never doing that. For me, I was like, no, that's way too embarrassing. But the funny thing is that some people can do that. But the whole point is that we all have fears. We all have fears of something. It's something normal. I got fears of something. Nazareno has some fears of something. Some people are scared of animals, dogs, Some people are, let's say I'm scared of dogs. And Nazareno is like, why? They're beautiful, But yet, maybe Nazareno is scared of spiders. And I'm not scared of spiders. I can grab them by their leg. Some people are scared of rats, anything. We all have fears as human beings. We all have fears. It's something that we're born with. But the whole point of everything is that do not let those fears overcome you. And I'm talking about fears that are more like as you become adults, you start facing stronger fears. For example, this is a fear that a lot of people have and we shouldn't have. Well, a lot of Christians. Some are afraid of being Christians. Or saying that they're Christian. That's a fear. That's a big fear. For some reason, especially even here in the U.S., a lot of Christians are scared to say that they're Christians. That's a fear. At work or at school or with their family members, they're scared to say they're Christians. Why? Because they're scared of what people are gonna are gonna say. They're gonna make fun of them or oh, you weirdos, And that's a fear. And that's a fear that we all maybe you guys have experienced it in some way or another. Especially when you go out with your friends or with your family members or when you go out to eat. But do you let that fear control you? Some of them, they're like, oh, yeah, I'm scared, but I'm still gonna do what I gotta do because that's what God loves. You know that we follow His commandments. But then some people know they actually run away. They pretend or they do things so people won't say they're Christians. But I always remember one thing that it always stuck to me is when God said that, you know, that if you denied me in front of others, I will deny you too in front of my Father. So if we deny God and we say that we don't know Him and we are scared or we are fear that what people are going to say and we pretend like, no, I don't know God or I'm not a Christian, then God says that He will what? That He will too He too will deny us and say, I don't know you. I don't know who you are in front of thy Father. So, and I don't want that. So let's don't be scared, fear of anything that may take away the love that God has for one of us, right? So wherever you go, wherever you do, you know, as long as you got God's trust in Him, He'll be able to give you the strength to overcome. And then when you feel that fear, whatever it is, then just pray about it and God will give you deliverance. Amen. Okay. Any questions? No. No, Nazareno, you're good? Yeah, okay. Well, let's stand and let's pray. God, I pray today that you help these young people, that you help them in their lives, that any fear that they experience in their lives, that you take care of it, Lord, that you give them the strength to overcome any fear that they have, especially if they have fear to say that they're Christians or to say that they're followers of you. Lord, please give them the strength so they will not be embarrassed, they will not fear to say that they're Christians, that they follow you, and give us the strength, Lord, that we can overcome anything that comes in our way in this world, any wars, any pestilence, anything, Lord, that may try to attack ourselves or our bodies, Lord, anything that will make us fear this world. I pray, Lord, that you give us the strength to overcome anything, any fear that may come into our lives and our souls, Lord. I pray that you give us the strength that we can be under your wings and you'll be able to protect us because you love us and we love you too, Lord. I pray that you help each one of us today and wherever we go.